The to-do list doesn't stop, and neither does the pressure to keep up with it. If you've been running on fumes, Grow Therapy makes it easier to find care that's covered by insurance and actually built around you. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/ACAST today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/ACAST. growtherapy.com/ACAST. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings by $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Oh, the kettle's boiled. Excellent timing. I'll just make myself a quick cuppa, take a deep breath and pretend I know exactly what I'm doing. Right, let's get started. Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning with massive anxiety and said to yourself, I'm never drinking again, only to find yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour? Do you ever wonder why everyone else can stop at 1 while you end up at a dodgy after party holding hands with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a closer look at your reliable social crutch, alcohol. On this podcast, I investigate my own deeply dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out what it's really like navigating this alcohol-drenched world, one fizzy water at a time. I'm going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up with one eyebrow missing and a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health. So what happens when you put down those cheeky pints and finally let go of those rewarding mummy wines? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone, and this is Sober Awkward. Right, got everything that's ready to go. Before we get into today's episode, I should probably start by saying I'm very burnt. I'm not used to this Antipodean sunshine. I'm a Brit down under, which basically means I still have absolutely no idea what I'm doing when it comes to weather. I tend to sit in the sun like a hanky-wearing, deck chair-hogging Brit on holiday in Marbella, completely ignoring all advice that I should have probably known before I moved here. Apparently, you're meant to reapply sunscreen and wear a hat. Who knew? So instead, like today, I end up resembling a slightly shriveled piece of bacon, probably one step away from a stern chat with a skin doctor. Anyway, what I'm saying is I would never, absolutely never survive if I went even a little bit inland. I stick firmly to the coast where I can get sushi and a bubble tea within a 5-mile radius. No wild animals climbing up my trouser leg, thank you very much. And if I'm honest, I'm still not entirely sure what a billabong actually looks like. My guest today, however, is the complete opposite of me. And I'm really hoping she's going to teach me a thing or two. Now, before I get into it properly, I just want to say a few things about Shanna. We've actually only met once, but we got on like a house on fire. We had a lot to talk about, and I absolutely loved her energy. She was one of those people you meet and you just think, wow, she's honest and kind and holds a sort of no-nonsense passion that she brings to everything she does. I was lucky enough to hear her speak at the Rethink Addiction conference a few years back, and she was amazing. One of those people you just listen to and think, right, you actually walk the walk. Shanna was named Local Hero of the Year at the Australian of the Year Awards, which basically means the whole country stood up and said, yep, you're doing something pretty bloody special. And one of my favourite things I read about her today was that she actually made the Queen laugh on a Zoom call, which, let's be honest, not many people can say. And then, if that wasn't enough, she was later one of the very few Australians that got invited to the Queen's funeral. All of that came from starting a grassroots sobriety movement in rural Australia. Through her charity, Sober in the Country, Shanna supports regional and farming communities with a strength and ferocity that only a proper outback legend could bring. She's faced her own challenges along the way, but she's what we call in Australia a battler, someone who just gets stuck in and keeps going no matter what. I'd genuinely love to spend more time with her, although, as established, the closest I can get to the outback is putting my bins out at night. So this is the next big thing. I'm so excited to chat with her today about sobriety, alcohol, life in farming communities, and probably dogs, because we're both big fans. So I wanted to start by asking Shanna, what would I need to do, this burnt Brit, to properly prepare myself for a visit to the Australian country?
Oh gosh, Vic, that's such a curly one straight up, because right now we're in the middle of a roaring drought and a very, very late protracted summer. Did you catch that?
You can't see her, but there is a lovely little dog called Biscuit. Is Biscuit a boy or a girl?
Biscuit's a little girl. She's a little Jack Russell.
And she's inside Shanna's T-shirt, like in her shirt, snuggling in and snoring. I'm going to share a photograph of it at some point, but it's the cutest thing ever. So she's chatting to me with a dog tucked into her top.
She's like, speaking of outback women, it's like having a baby Joey, except it's a Jack Russell. Yeah. And Vic, you and I were talking earlier about how we both have codependent dogs and that suits us just fine. Yeah. Let me tell you, going back to your how do you survive the outback, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, because I actually don't know if I'm really surviving at this point. As I was saying, the protracted drought that we're in, the fuel, the fertiliser, the whole business of being an outback human full stop at this point feels like an act of endurance that never, ever ends. And in regard to surviving as a Brit with a delicate, fair constitution, I would not recommend coming out west during summer ever, unless the friend you're visiting has water holes nearby or some kind of feature of water. And currently we don't. We're bone dry. We're so drought stricken, it's horrendous. So I would say to you, come visit when we've had rain, and then you'll think we live in heaven. But right now you would be probably mostly horrified.
When it rains here, I'm like, oh, God, it's raining. Like, what are we going to do? It's just like such a different lifestyle. As soon as the sun's out here all the time on the sunny coast and you get so used to it, and when there's a little bit of a shower, I'm like, oh, bloody hell, what are we going to do today? I'm going to get stuck inside. But where you live, the rain is so important, isn't it? It's people's bread and butter.
Oh, Vic, and look, and it's fair enough. If it's not your normal and you find rain inconvenient, well, that's just how it is, because it's not your, it doesn't determine whether you live or die. So we haven't had rain. So for our coastal or city mates listening in who don't have any concept of life on the land or being a farmer or a wannabe farmer, as I call myself, you walk outside each day with an anxiety in your gut that is impossible to explain, especially during, as I said, protracted drought periods like we're in right now. There's so much hardship. There's death and there's dying and there's dust and there's drought and there's floods. And then there's all the dangerous, we have huge, huge abundance of highly venomous snakes. So when the summer drags out and out and out like it has done here, it's nothing for me to, run into a highly venomous brown, black, stripy snake on any given day. And just, I don't know, it feels, mate, like I've been stuck in fight or flight for 6 months, and it is bloody exhausting. And it breaks your heart in ways I could not convey properly. But
it's interesting because it makes me feel quite ignorant. We just plod along in our little lives. I'm on the coast, everything's nearby. I don't really consider those situations because it isn't my reality. Me and Shanna had a little chat before we started this conversation. I'm just going to say here, do you know, on Sober Awkward, we love to talk about topics. And today's topic is this, because we've heard everybody's sober stories, haven't we? You know mine, you probably know hers. They all have a similar trajectory, which is we were fucking massive pissheads. We hit a wall, however heavy that wall was, and then we came out the other side, and here we are, and we're talking about it. So we know those stories, and our stories are so similar. So today I really want to get stuck into this because it's something I am naive about, and I'm sure a lot of people in Australia need to know about this. They need to know what's going on beyond the front gate. And I do think sometimes we get stuck in our little bubble and go, I'm all right, like I'm happy here doing my thing. But there are people in Australia that are struggling. Can we talk a little bit about the impact of the weather on alcohol use in the countryside?
Bloody oath we can. It's and that's it, Vic. And if you don't know, you don't know, you know. And I've often made jokes to friends and said if I was Prime Minister for a day, I would make it legislation that every city person should live in the country for a year and vice versa. Yeah. Because there is such a cavernous, massive, monstrous, yawning gap of awareness between someone like me and someone I love who lives in the city or the coast or whatever. And that's no one's fault. It's just because people simply don't understand what they don't know. But the consequences of that are so massive because, as you just referenced before, picture an isolated rural human. I'm going to say woman because we're constantly represented as middle-aged white guys, which is fine for those who it represents accurately. But there's a lot of women who live west of the Great Divide too. And honestly, I just laugh when I see how we are portrayed in the media. It's like Groundhog Day, speaking of the same thing on repeat. Anyway, I'm just going to represent the lady farmers and the ladies of the land. But picture a woman surviving a drought. Like I've got a friend who is a farmer, an actual farmer, not a wannabe like me, single mum on a block of really marginal country, meaning when I say marginal, it means it's not very productive. It's tough at the best of times. So I actually don't even know how she survives. This is a woman who literally drives her own tractors, kills her own meat, butchers her own meat, plows her own paddocks, does everything. She's like the Ned Kelly of lady farmers. She blows my mind. She's so courageous. Now, a lot of women, a lot of men, a lot of farmers or anyone who's part of the agricultural supply chain, more broadly speaking. So you could be involved in a number of capacities or facets of agriculture or primary production, right? And PS, for coastal listeners who don't know, primary production means people who grow food and fibre, part of the whole complex supply chain of that. Now, imagine them going through droughts, floods, fires, or any raft of these things that we regularly deal with. We are so grossly lacking in fundamental, basic, equitable healthcare support programs or things that even make sense for us. And that is, in fact, as you know, part of my own story. Rural life is bloody hard in a lot of ways. And I self-medicated with alcohol because cracking a cold one or a rumbo or drinking a bottle of fancy red wine, because I was convinced if I drank expensive red wine, I couldn't be one of those you-know-what people. That's how I turned my brain off. That's how I wound down. That's how I relaxed, quote unquote. That's how I numbed grief, pain, trauma, you name it. I was self-medicating copious things with alcohol. And you and I know where that ends. And you and I also know that it takes, on average, 20 years for it to get so bad that we reach out for a hand, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Vic, so many of the people I personally know of or who we support through our peer support group through Sober in the Country are 40 and 50 and 60 and upwards. And those patterns have been in place in their life for decades. And so we have a whole different beast to deal with. And it just breaks your heart. It breaks your heart.
I can't imagine it. And I do feel a bit silly, actually. I do feel a bit silly because I get stuck, I'm stuck in who I am and where I live and what I do and running after my 3 kids and moaning about the minuscule things in life. Okay. And I feel overwhelmed. And being a woman in itself can feel quite overwhelming, especially with perimenopause and kids with hormones raging as well. And I get stuck in that, you know, the mundanity of life. And I just plod along, trying to get by, going to therapy here and there, trying to sort myself out. And I forget, and I get closed off from this. And to hear about a woman on her own in a farm doing all that stuff, it is as if it's just not enough being who you are, to let alone have to get up at God knows what time in the morning and go and kill a cow or something.
Yeah.
I just can't fathom it, quite honestly.
I can't fathom it either, Vic. So I'm going to make fun of myself the whole way through this because, so just to paint the picture for you, so Tim and I live on 1,000 acres and it's very remote. It's against a national park and it is also very marginal country. So during a good season, as they call it, when we've had adequate rainfall, we might have cattle or sheep or whatever if we can feed and, you know, sustain stock. Right. But it's a secondary source of income. So Tim and I both have full-time jobs, obviously mine running Sober in the Country. And he is, do you know what a commodity trader is? A broker? Do you know what that is?
Sort of, yeah. Sort of. My sort of undiagnosed ADHD brain, when I hear words like that, I kind of shut down. So I'll sort of say yes, but please don't explain it to me because I will not be present.
Can I just say to you, as a fellow ADHD human who disassociates at the first sign of new things that I can't comprehend, I totally get you, right?
Okay, good.
But so Tim trades grain, yeah? So a farmer grows wheat, then Farmer Joe needs to get the wheat to the end user, and Tim, my beautiful Timbo, is the middleman. So he trades grains, pulses, cotton, blah, blah, blah. So we both have our own part-time jobs. So we're not actually real farmers. We do a little bit where we can and when we can, but it's not our primary source of income. So we're really, really bloody lucky at this point in time. And again, for the uninitiated, for those listening, right now, the things that are going on in the Middle East, as we all know, is creating massive fuel shortages. But what most people, again, blissfully unaware, living in places where this radical notion of things like public transport exist, it's blissful ignorance to think that you can just jump in an Uber or jump on a train or jump on a bus. We don't have any of that, of course. We don't. So for me to go to town is 100K round trip. If I go and do a trip to my nearest major grocery outlet, I can basically come home with about $1,000 out of pocket as a rule, because I've got to do a bulk shop. I've got to pay for diesel because I can't drive a cute little EV because I will die. I won't even be able to get home through the creek crossings or through the 4,000 kangaroos and pigs and goats and things that will decimate an EV in about 1.5 seconds. But all of these realities that we live every day while being dictated to by our illustrious commanders in charge at the top, who also clearly have very little to no understanding of the realities of country life, it can make you feel like you're living in a whole different universe where the governance that is applied to you is under the assumption that you're the same as all the other people. And it's like, excuse me, it doesn't quite work like that out here. Yeah. So it's not just being isolated geographically, Vic, and it's not just the hardship of life on the land. It's just so much more complex than that. I feel at this point that country people are so flipping not seen and not heard by the wider population because we're simply not given the airtime by our own leadership or mainstream media. How would you know?
Yeah, well, I don't. And the thing that pops up in my brain there's a couple of things. It's like the isolation. So therefore, if you do feel like you're in trouble with your drinking, to even get anywhere to get some help is complicated. The other thing I was thinking of was about character. Now, us coasties, we're probably quite aware of media and, sharing your emotions and being all out there and being very Gen Z and talking about things and being very open, actually. And I wonder if there's a difference between people that are more isolated and living in a more difficult environment, you probably want to come across, please correct me if I'm wrong, as being stronger and more stoic and a survivor. And look, I'm a farmer and I'm strong and I've got this land. And it must feel like there's pressure to be perceived in a certain way. And I can imagine that mask is difficult to keep up all the time when everything's not growing and there's problems and everything's falling apart, but yet you don't know how to express that. Is that the case?
Honestly, for some of our mates out west, absolutely it is, especially country blokes. They are expected and mandated to be tough and don't cry and don't show emotions. And in particular, especially in my age demographic, right? A lot of my close mates that I grew up with were literally indoctrinated that real men don't cry. And the only time you're allowed to show emotions is after you've smashed a couple of bottles of rum. So what we have is a generation of beautiful men who have been taught to repress their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, and it's bloody horrendous. And by the same token, on the other side of that coin, they are drinking to hide all of those emotions, which are enormous and relentless. And so we have all of these extraordinary, capable, and they are indeed resilient, brave, remarkable men tucked away in the most isolated environments on earth, and there is no place. Well, let me correct that. There was no place for them to go. I only just shared a post this morning on LinkedIn and it made me cry. I mean, I cry all the time, but still, it's always because I care deeply. And I shared that it has taken 11 years, right, for me to build trust, especially with rural men. Their walls are up. Their walls are so high because they've learned to survive. And so much damage has been done to these beautiful blokes with this, indoctrination that you're not a real bloke unless blah, blah, rah, rah, et cetera, et cetera. What we're seeing through Sober in the Country is this wave of country men who have entrusted our charity to share their stories and their truth and their vulnerabilities. And my God, I mean, I've been sharing stories of other people like you for 11 years now. And yes, there are similarities and there's a common thread through all of the stories. But for some reason, when country blokes open up and get vulnerable and spill their guts, it just undoes me every time because I know the courage it takes and I know what they're up against. And I just have this whopping great big piece of my heart that is so specially reserved for country men who are courageous enough to go against the grain and to stand up and say, look, I've got to get off the booze, fellas. Like, it's killing me and it's costing me my family, my health, my friends, my sanity. Like, if I keep drinking, I'm going to die. The courage of a man to step up and say that in an environment in the bush where pretty much it's mandated that you're not, even a bloke if you don't drink, is incredible. But I tell you what, I can see how they get to that point, and my God, we've got some work to do.
Can you tell me a little bit about the drinking culture out there? Is there pubs in the outback? Does everyone meet straight after work? What time do people finish? Like, I really would love you to conjure up a picture for me, for somebody who is so silly. I've never experienced anything like it because I just can't imagine it. How does it play out? Are there people drinking at home? Where are they getting the beers from? I know that there's a drink driving issue in the outback as well. Mm-hmm. Can you just help me paint a picture of what it's like for a farmer out there, a male or female, and how that affects their day-to-day business?
And P.S., Vic, it as I said, earlier, it's not just farmers, it's anyone in a rural or remote setting. It could be a small town mum, could be a farming family, whatever, right? But yes. Yep. So pretty much our lives are permanent. Oh, there's Biscuit sighing again into the microphone. Our lives are permanent isolation. That's why I was laughing so hard all the time during COVID going, well, welcome to our reality, guys. So we live in permanent ISO. And what happens is the typical average person who lives, even in a small country town, but obviously could be 50, 100, 200, 300, 400 Ks from their nearest town, the centre of their lives is typically going to be sporting clubs, picnic race days. Do you know what a picnic race day is?
No, don't know what that is, no.
Imagine a dusty paddock in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and I mean absolutely nowhere, but it's a racetrack for horses, yeah? People dress up like they're going to the Royal Ascot, and they go into a dusty paddock and spend the whole day socialising and obviously sinking copious amounts of grog at the same time. So our gathering points are, like I said, it's the nearest outback pub, it's the sporting club, it's picnic race events. Back in the old days, we had what was called B&S balls. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Yeah, this is the funnest day ever. I'm teaching you all about these things.
I love it.
Okay, so again, based on the sheer vast distances for country people, B&S, B for Bob, N for Nelly, S for Sam, stands for Bachelor and Spinster Ball, yeah?
Okay, yes.
So back in the day, and these still happen, I shouldn't say back in the day, but they have changed. You pack your do you know what a swag is?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. You roll up your sleeping bag, stick it under your arm, you grab your carton of grog, you grab your ciggies, you chuck it all in the back of your ute.
Your durries.
Yeah, your darts, your durries. Yep.
I'm so un-Australian, aren't I? I love it.
I love you. Don't you ever change. And then you drive 5, 6, 7, 800 Ks to the nearest B&S ball to hopefully meet the woman of your dreams, while standing in the back of the ute doing beer bongs, having a durry, maybe possibly being dragged in circles behind a ute on the bonnet of a disassembled ute, and risking your life because it's really funny. And
that is just brilliant. And if you do meet someone, do you tuck them into your sleeping bag with you?
Most assuredly that has occurred. Yes, it has occurred.
Romantic.
Yeah, really romantic stuff. So that is how, like back in the 80s and 90s, that is how people got together when they were super remote. But let's say it's a situation where you might be within a bull's roar of a small pub or, outback club or whatever, RSL. Yeah, those are your central gathering places. And I don't know, country people can't meet people at the art gallery or down at the surf or at the yoga class. Oh, sorry, that's not true. We do have yoga classes. I'm being a bit derisive there. But it's really limited, right? And so that's the whole thing. So booze is the entire social lubricant of outback life, and it could be horse competing events like a camp draft. You know what a camp draft is? This is the fun.
I don't know anything. All I know is that if I came, I'd have one of those hats with corks on it. I'd probably ask you where the nearest billabong is, and I'd have a couple of durries. Like that. That is about as Australian as I get. And I'd maybe want to go on a roo shoot, but of course I wouldn't be able to shoot any roos. I'd probably just try and save them and cuddle them. So just consider me to be just a very, very average Brit.
You know what we
anywhere.
need to do, Vic?
You need to get me out there.
You're going to come west. I'm going to invite you out west.
I'm not sure I
I'll
could
protect you. I promise.
Will you?
I promise you. Absolutely. Do you know I used to be a tour guide in the Northern Territory taking backpackers times 22 at a time around the desert? Yeah.
Amazing.
I got you. I got you, girl. So camp drafts, rodeos, etc. Again, our passion. A lot of country people use horses as part of their daily life to work cattle, sort cattle out in the paddocks, bring them in, rah-de-rah, yeah? Mm-hmm. And a lot of country people compete at events on their beloved, amazing horses. So that's another big part of our gathering. That's a typical country way to connect with others, almost inevitably, that sounded like I was half-tanked, inevitably revolves around sport, animals, combination of both, fancy galas, balls, etc., and or every single vehicle you see in the country is a ute, and in the back of every single ute in every single country area is an esky, and in every single esky on every ute is 1,000 beers just in case. So we can even turn catching up in the paddock at the end of the day with our local agronomist into a session for beers. Do you know what an agronomist is?
No.
They're the person who you pay, don't disassociate, they're the person you pay to come and look at your crop and tell you what the weeds are doing and what you need to spray on them, okay?
Okay, right.
So they're like your garden expert except for massive paddocks, whatever. Yeah. So let's say an agronomist says, hey, to my beautiful Tim, hey, Whanny, I'm coming out at 5 o'clock, mate. Let's have a look at your crops. But really what we're going to be doing is drinking beer at sunset out of the back of the ute and the esky. So I hope I'm painting the picture here. Everything we do is isolation. And so at any chance we get, we gather, and pretty much 90% of any gathering we have in the bush comes down to grog. Or in lucky instances where people have heard our message or are on board with this crazy evolution of catering for drinkers and non-drinkers, radical notion, there is a change happening. And I'm so thrilled to say that there are beautiful countrymen out there in the wild blue yonder, like my Timbo. Up rocks a bloke in a ute, builds a fire, puts on a camp oven, pulls out a couple of eskies, and he goes, yep, g'day blokes, g'day everyone. This eskie's got grog in it, this one's got other stuff in it. Enjoy. That's how he's learned from us. And you know what's very fascinating, Vic? Every time he has done that, the alternatives to grog go first.
It doesn't matter where you live, does it? It bloody is so insidious, this culture, this drug, that you could live in Timbuktu and there'd be someone there cracking open a beer saying, here you go, mate, let's connect. And it's that, isn't it? It's that feeling of we're the same. This is what we do. This is how we connect and this is how we have fun. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you're with. It has become so almost organic that is what we do as human beings, to be with people. And it's lovely to hear that your Timbo is trying to change that with his mates as well. Because it's all very us, like we're like these sober warriors, like don't bloody drink round me. Even my husband recently, he organised something for his birthday, like a wake park thing. There's a big surf beer culture here on the Sunshine Coast, of course. And he doesn't drink anymore. He's been sober for a while, but he doesn't count the days, of course, because he didn't need to. He bought a load of Heaps normal beers and he took them to the event. So the only beers he took were alcohol-free beers. And he said, right, here we go. Everyone had a nice time. So everyone was exhausted. And you know what it's like. They've had a bit of exercise. You've had a big day. You've worked hard. And it's like, right, let's crack open a beer. And my husband was there with these cold beers. And no one flinched. That is how things are changing. And they're all massive drinkers as well. And everyone almost was kind of pleased with the fact that they didn't need to get stuck in. They probably had stuff too tomorrow, which if someone had handed them a beer, they'd just gone, okay, we're on it. Like, let's get on with it. Yep. Let's get pissed. Let's have a laugh, la, la, la. But the option wasn't available. And it was amazing how quickly that their brains went, all right, this isn't happening now. Let's just have a cold alcohol-free beer or whatever, and let's just get on with this event. And I know we get into this frame of mind, like, if we don't drink, it's going to be awful. And if we don't drink, we're not going to connect at the same level. But of course, it's the opposite. And that is a really difficult message to tell someone if they're so used to it being so entrenched in their social life. So how do you share that message, Shanna?
You're such a good question asker, Vic. I learned over the years that you walk into a country environment and you start threatening someone's God-given right to drink themselves to death, you're just going to get hunted out of town, essentially. Not that I've ever been a prohibitionist, mind you, but I learned very, very, very quickly that when it comes to speaking about this stuff with country people, you want to go in with your eyes wide open and very bloody carefully, because it's a fierce, fierce culture in some ways. It can be fairly, heavily indoctrinated by grog, right? So you've got to, it's like walking a tightrope, and if you put your foot in the wrong place, you're going to get snapped by a crocodile. That's what 11 years of advocacy for me has been like, and my God, you learn quickly. So how I deliver the message is I don't talk about the problem all the time. I actually talk about the solution, and I take the conversation and flip it on its head and say, guys, if you love a beer and you can have a few safely, good on you. What we're here to do is say, if your mate can't, or if your mate doesn't want to, can you actually just make it okay to say no, chuck something in the fridge for them, and just don't be a jerk if your mate doesn't want to get on the booze? Can we just do that? Can we be the kind of mates we brag about being as country people? And I tell you one thing, country people talk up a big game about being there for mates no matter what. And so I'm kind of gently calling them out on that all the time and saying, righto, so if we're such amazing mates, and if our neighbour breaks their leg or gets a scary medical diagnosis and they can't harvest their crop or feed their dogs, we are there like a flash to do that for them. So why can't we, if a mate says, I can't drink anymore, or I'm going to die, or I need to cut back for my health, my fitness, whatever, not that it's anyone else's business, Why can't we support them in that as well? So I gently go at it from solutions rather than finger pointing or blaming or preaching or telling. And one of the most beautiful memories I've got of all time is I went to one of these massive cattle stations and I was doing what's called induction week, right, where they get all these new young cowboys, cowgirls, jackaroos, jillaroos together and do inductions, safety talks and whatnot, which is wonderful. That's an evolution in itself. When I was a jillaroo, you just got kicked out of the ute and told, try not to die. Be back in a month. I don't know how I didn't die. Well, that's another podcast for another day. But it's really lovely, right? There's a lot more standards and professionalism now in the industry, which is wonderful. And as part of that, they invited me up and said, Shan, we'd love you to share the okay to say no message with our new recruits as part of their induction.
Right, Vic here. If you've ever fancied pressing pause on life for a bit, I've got something for you. I'm running 2 sober retreats this year in Thailand, and honestly, all you have to do is get yourself there, and I've taken care of the rest. It's a beautiful, fully alcohol-free resort, and yes, I've hired the whole bloody place just for you. Think daily yoga, massages, writing workshops, kayaking, island hopping, snorkelling trips, Thai boxing, and some seriously good food. There's 3 types of accommodation, something for everybody. Last year, 15 strangers arrived and left as proper sober mates. I'm hosting 1 retreat on my own and the second one with the lovely sober Dave. He brings the calm, grounded wisdom and I bring the dodgy dance moves. So if you want to take a week to feel better, feel connected with people that get it, and maybe sweat a bit and laugh a lot in a weird jungle, head to soberawkward.com/retreat. And you never know, we might get to sip on coconuts together. See you in Thailand.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
And it was my first one. And because my own trauma connected to my own story as a baby jillaroo on a station in the middle of nowhere, was sexually assaulted multiple times by drunk men with nowhere to go and no help. It was very personally triggering and fairly traumatizing, to say the least, as I was backstage, quote unquote, thinking about the enormity of that full circle moment. I'm sitting there on this little outback stage, which I think was like a 44-gallon drum, and the plastic chairs are in front of me, and walk in this handful of full-blown alpha males, like they were gorgeous young men. I call it, walking into a room, pardon me for sounding vulgar, but, penis first, very confident. You know what I mean? That swag, these young, gorgeous, capable men have. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I felt terrified. I felt like, who am I? What am I even doing here? I need to bolt. This is ridiculous. They're going to throw stones at me. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And I just shared from the heart, as I always do, why I started the charity, why this matters, and, what I believe are some of the things we need to do. Afterwards, a couple of these super duper alpha males walked up to me and I went, oh, God, they're going to rip strips off me. And you know what? The leader of the pack, he was such a lovely young man. He walked up to me, shook my hand and looked me in the eye and he said, Shanna, I just want to say thank you so much for that talk. He said, that's one of the most unbelievably interesting talks I've ever heard. I've never thought about any of it. And he said, but I also want to say thank you because I came here expecting that in order to fit in, I'd have to drink, 3 litres of rum for my initiation ceremony and not die and throw a bull and do all these things that I've been told would be expected of me to be regarded as a proper ringer. He said, I'm actually not interested in that stuff. I just want to work hard and enjoy the experience. And I don't want to have a dirty hangover every day. And you're the first person I've heard take this culture on in such a positive, lovely way. And he said, so if it's all right with you, I'll grab one of your caps. And I had our okay to say no country trucker caps, which are very vibey for all the young, cool kids. And he grabbed that hat and he said, I'll wear this now. And I know that I can say no. and I'll just lead in with my cap and I'll wear it to the pub. And if I do drink and if I don't drink, this is a message I'm now going to pass on to the fellas I work with. And I still hear, Vic, from some of the young ringers at that event all those years ago will reach out to me on occasion and say, Shan, my whole life changed because of that talk.
Wow. It's just amazing because people don't know that it's okay to say no. They don't know that that's even an option. And even I didn't, and you probably didn't either. And if I said to people, I'm not drinking tonight, which I actually never did, it wouldn't have gone down well. And I felt like it wouldn't have been acceptable for me to push back and go, look, this is making me have anxiety. This is actually making me ill. And that's the problem with the normalization in every culture, whether it's the city or the country, is that just everybody's doing it. So therefore, we feel we have to do it too. And then to bring that message into people without them getting defensive, as you say, is really, really hard. And I agree, you probably had to step on a few toes and tiptoe around a few people to be able to share something that gets people's goat. That's my farming term for you there for the podcast.
Yeah, girl. But it's true, Vic, and it's so true, honey. And I couldn't say no. We were bullied and intimidated like there's no tomorrow as country kids if we didn't drink. It was horrendous. How old am I now? 50. I think I'm about to turn 52. I don't know. I can't remember. But 18, 19, 20, etc. year old me, there was no option to say no. It was utterly frowned upon, unheard of. And that is why all these decades down the track, people like you and me who didn't ever get that education or that permissiveness to say, mate, it's cool if you don't want to drink enough grog to kill yourself. It's actually fine. So that's why so many people in our age group are now the ones manifesting chronic end-stage addiction because that's what they were indoctrinated with as well. And, it's funny, Vic, I've spoken at a lot of really boozy agricultural colleges, right, which is the breeding ground historically for massive drinking. I consistently underestimate how powerful what we've created is and simply dishing up a message that it's okay to say no. And here's some ways that if you're a drinker and you can have one or two safely, that's cool. But what are you doing to cater for and include your mates? And here's some practical stuff around this. And here's a bit of a heads up around that. I don't know if you know this, but we've created some workshops recently, unoriginally titled the Okay to Say No workshop. And we're getting them out into big cattle stations and it could be mining, it could be agriculture, it could be whatever, but into corporate spaces where there's always a big game being talked around governance and safety, right? And I say, well, if that's part of your corporate strategy, then this is a no-brainer because at the heart of most issues in the bush, right, from drink driving and, as you said, the horrific farmer suicides that we have, I won't even delve into that because I'll cry, all of it underpinning almost every single massive issue we face in country areas is grog. And yet until me and us, there's never been a laser-focused, niche, rural-driven, not-for-profit or organisation to tackle this.
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck? So it took one broken-down old recovering human like me, who knew my purpose in life would be drunkest on ground for decades, to the person advocating it's okay not to be that. Who knew that was my purpose?
I get judged quite a lot about what I do. And some people think, what's she trying to do? She's trying to be famous or something. What's she doing, like posting all the time? Like, I do this like you and I feel your passion. I feel it through the screen and your knowledge and your care and your kindness. I feel it because I have that in me too. I don't do this because I like posting on fucking Instagram. I hate that shit more than anything else in the whole world. I'm doing it to reach people and I'm doing it the same reasons that you're doing it, which is to share a message and go, look, you can say no. You don't have to do this. Yes, it sounds hypocritical because I did it for bloody years, but I've seen what's on the other side and it's so much more joyful and so much easier. Like sobriety is so much easier than drinking. And that is a difficult message to hand over to someone who is in the crux of any sort of alcohol misuse. It's not about getting ourselves out there. It's about getting the message out there.
You spoke a minute ago about how you've copped a lot of flack. I always knew I had my eyes wide open going into what I was doing. I knew I was setting myself up to take on the hardest topic of all time in the hardest to reach demographic of all time. I knew that.
Yep.
But what we're doing through our charity, as small as it is and despite all the odds, is we're changing and saving incalculable rural lives. But every event I go to, everything I headline as a speaker, everything I've done for 11 years is preceded with an apology. I have to stand up in front of every country audience and begin with a joke. Thank God I've got an awesome sense of humour. Trauma will do that, right? But I literally kick off most talks with, rightio, who feels weird about drinking red wine, while the sober girls at the event and, reluctantly a few hands go up, and I have to make a joke. I've got to throw myself under the bus. I've got to say, hey, guys, if you drink, it's all good, blah, 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 blah. So I have to spend a good 10 minutes setting the scene and apologising in a backhanded way to ensure that the egos of the drinkers are okay. Now, if I was doing the work I'm doing in anything else, like, say, methamphetamines, which is another huge issue in the country, I would probably have been knighted by now and given an office and given some funding from the people who allegedly run this country. But instead, I've got to slog it out and apologise that I even exist a lot of the time. So I guess what I want to say there is I really feel you. And it's devastating to me that people who dare to share their experience of being sober or advocate for others without judgment still get hammered. It's pretty disgusting, and I'm really hoping that will change, but it still happens. So just want to validate that experience, girlfriend.
Yeah. And actually, do you know what? When I do get that sort of, weird messages or people putting me down or saying, you were a drinker, what are you talking about? It really fuels me, because that's what I want to hear, because that just highlights the issue. It just highlights it for me, and it makes me feel empowered. I'm going, this is the right thing to do, because it's making people feel defensive. And if people feel defensive, it makes it worthwhile.
And that's it. And it is so easy to follow the mob. That's easy. That's a piece of cake. Anyone can follow the lemmings off the cliff. I nearly went off the cliff with all the lemmings. It's much harder to stand back and separate yourself from the mob and go maverick and say, well, actually, no, guys, I don't actually want to die, if that's okay with you. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to validate that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Shanna, you've achieved some really incredible things. Grassroots work to actually making the Queen laugh. What's been the most, that's pretty odd, but what has been the most meaningful moment for you in all of this?
Do you know what? This is going to sound so cheesy and as though I've scripted it, but I swear to God I haven't. I have met some incredibly famous humans and actual celebrities and, properly famous humans, including the Queen of England. That is all extraordinary and I'd have to say pretty bloody surreal. I've had a couple of red carpet moments. But in all honesty, Vic, the most profound experiences for me are when country people share the story of how and why our work or our message has changed their life, and when I can connect face to face with another old bushie or a young child or an adult kid of someone whose, life we've changed or saved. Everyday people and everyday interactions for me are the things that are far more meaningful any day of the week. And I realise how cheesy that sounds, but it's very much the truth. That's what keeps me going. It makes me want to cry. Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't keep going if it was based on you making celebrities happy.
Oh,
that would be too hard.
Well, and I know you're a bit the same as me, Vic. Like, I never set out with the goal of setting myself up as an influencer. I flipping hate the word, to be frank with you. I hate it. I'm not. I'm just a broken, flawed human who's going to stuff up and keep stuffing up until the day I die. I'm just doing what I can with what I have, with the hope that it'll be of use to someone. But what I am really grateful for is that because of those elevations and lifts in profile and, doing TV and media at a national level has afforded me some opportunities to help the everyday man and woman, and that's what I live for. So I'm very, 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 very grateful for that. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that leads to me asking you my final question, which is, for somebody that's out there listening that lives in a rural area and is just there thinking, I need to change my relationship with alcohol. That's all they're thinking. They don't know what it is or why, or they don't really understand what's happening. How would you suggest that they start?
Yeah, indeed. Isn't that a great question? thankfully, a lot of our advocacy and our social media is known now across the outback, which is, I mean, that's just mind-boggling. I'll never understand that. To those people and those vulnerable humans who are in the contemplative phase, as the actual professionals call it, is to say, just start. There's no right or wrong answer. As you and I both know, the biggest red flag that you're drinking is a problem is if you're asking yourself if your drinking is a problem.
Yeah.
People without a drinking problem don't ask themselves if they've got a drinking problem.
Yeah.
You know, and if you know it's an issue, you know in your heart of hearts it's an issue. And so, and P.S., even though we're laser focused on rural and remote people, our website and advocacy and information is being used by the whole of Australia. So, you know, your listeners might gain stuff from our stuff, whatever, like grab whatever you can get your mitts on is my philosophy. But be curious, ask questions. What I would say to people is be really mindful of extremes. You know, there's no one size that fits all when it comes to cutting back or quitting grog. And unfortunately, there are some pretty extremist approaches and views out there which can actually derail people and put them off. Like sobriety, if the first thing doesn't work, or if the first meeting you might go to, if you're fortunate enough to even have access to face-to-face support groups, whatever that might be, whoever it's run through, oh my God, give it a crack. But if you have a horrendous experience, don't blame the organisation. Just know that that was a bad group on any given day and go again. Be utterly relentless in your curiosity and the pursuit of your own wellness. Do not give up is my single-handed mantra that I lived by, and I'm so glad because, like so many of us, I had some shocking experiences that knocked me back and set me backwards, and even a couple of times led to a relapse. So be curious and just start. And if something doesn't resonate, do not let that put you off. Go again, have another crack, go to a different website or human or organisation or counsellor, but put the same amount of devotion and passion that you once put into your drinking into your choice to get well. And if you apply that same passion and devotion, you will find a way.
Yeah. Oh, what a brilliant place to end. I think I'm going to have to come and visit you, aren't I?
You are, mate. And you know what we're going to do?
What?
We're going to get you an actual proper hat that hasn't got corks on it. Otherwise, they will run you out of town. I won't let you come over summer, okay, unless we've had rain and there's water holes. Yeah. And I'll protect you from slithering things.
I would love it, but I'd probably be a nervous wreck. It would be hilarious, I can assure you that. And I'd probably cry into my swag.
Yeah, no, it's just terrible. We get a bit, what's that word? Is it laissez-faire?
Laissez-faire, yes.
Laissez-faire.
A bit relaxed, yes.
A bit relaxed about these near-death experiences we have every second day.
Yeah. Do you think it makes you tough living in the country?
I don't think I'm tough. I think that I'm very determined to survive at all costs and protect my beautiful little mates that I love with all my heart and soul. That's my two dogs, for people who didn't see me just pointing at my Jack Russell, who's still asleep inside my shirt.
Well, I hope you stay alive too, so that we can have more lovely chats in the future, Shanna. It is amazing to chat to you. I know this has been a long time coming. I can't believe we haven't done it before, but we don't normally do the interviews on Sober Awkward. It's only since my lovely Hamish left that I've started doing them on my own, which I am thoroughly enjoying. And to get an insight into your life in sort of outback Australia has been absolutely fascinating, and I appreciate you and all the work you do, and thank you so much for coming on Sober Awkward.
Thank you for having me, Vic. And as you know, sister from another mister, all of the same things that you just said back at you. Girlfriend, thank you for being you. You're a very special girl and we love you.
Thanks, Shanna. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support. Talk to a mate, book in with your GP, go to an AA meeting, or find an online support group. I've got one. Just head to cuppa.community. For more resources, head to soberawkward.com, where you'll find details of our amazing Thailand sober holidays, the 30-day sobriety guide, books, blogs, writing courses, and loads more. I know this sobriety thingamajig can feel uncomfortable at first, but there is help out there. Find your community, connect, and start to feel the awkward and do it anyway. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, please rate it, review it and share it with your mates. Because honestly, my mates are bored of hearing about it.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So, whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
The Scouting Report's in. Unlock the savings at Boost Mobile. Get unlimited wireless for $25 a month forever and keep your phone. It's a veteran move. Unlock the savings at boostmobile.com/unlock. $25 forever. Requires customers to remain active on Boost Mobile Unlimited Wireless Plan. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
Okay, caller 1 wins courtside seats to tonight's game.
What? I won floor seats?
You did.
I've been calling for 13 months.
Wait, Chris?
Yes, I finally did it.
What are you going to wear?
Men's Warehouse. They've got today's looks for any occasion, and I need to look like a celebrity.
Don't want to stick out.
Exactly. They've got Chill Flex by Kenneth Cole, Joseph Abood, and a tailor at every store for the perfect fit.
Congrats. You can stop calling now.
Not a chance.
Get any look for every occasion at Men's Warehouse. Love the way you look.
So, as you probably know, my comedy memoir, 1,000 Wasted Sundays, is officially out. All my magnificent fuck-uppery in one awkward hit. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy, it's now available from all good bookstores.
We always say all good bookstores, don't we?
Yeah.
Are there bad bookstores?
No, it's probably ones with moody sellers.
Oh yeah, really depressed librarian folk.
Yes.
Good.
So there are probably some, but we're only storing it in the good ones.
It's only made it into the goodies.
You can also get it from all good online retailers. The print version and ebook are out now, and the audiobook will be available in March. I've been writing my memoir for 5 years. It will make you laugh, cry and cringe, and hopefully inspire a few people to reconsider their relationship with booze. If you love the podcast, then I think you'll love the book, even if I do say so myself. Hamish has read it. What did you think?
I feel like I know a little bit too much about you now, to be honest, Vic. Look, I really loved it. It was hilarious and surprisingly moving, but I feel like I've seen you naked in a literary sense. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah. From an emotional point of view, seriously, it wobbled my teeny weeny wooden heart, Vic.
Okay.
My teeny little wooden heart.
Well, his wooden heart is broken. Anyway, so if you do manage to get your filthy mitts on a copy, please do me a favour and head to goodreads.com and give me a review. Doing that will help me get it out there to those that need a bit of sober support. So there you have it. My story, unwanted warts and all. Come and get awkward with me.
Not to be too demanding or anything, but seriously, go and buy it now.
Yeah, go and buy it. Go and buy it right now.
Yeah, don't just tell your friends, buy it, and then buy your friends one or two.
Yeah, don't give them a copy, buy it. Yeah.
And you know what? Don't be careful where you store it. If you lose it, you can always buy another 5.
Buy another one.
Yeah.